Hey guys, what's going on? I hope everyone's doing well. Back today with another video. This is another episode of ranking discographies. So I'm not going in the alphabetical order of my existing collection, just going to a particular band today. The reason I'm doing that is because I've talked about this band in threads before, and a lot of people have mentioned they're not really familiar with their material, and I've been promising to do this for a long time anyway, so I thought, why not now? It seems relevant. So the band I'm going to be talking about today is Enthroned. So I have talked about them before, as I said. They are a black metal band from Belgium, from Wallonia, so the French-speaking region of Belgium, I think, pretty sure. And they are sort of a legendary band, sort of like mid-tier, quite well known, except and revered in the underground. But at the same time, there's a lot of people I've heard mention to me in response to my videos, oh, I've got to check them out, or I haven't heard their material. They're honestly one of my favorite black metal bands. So I thought I'd like to do this as well, just to bring them to people's attention, because I think they're a really underrated band. So I have a lot to talk about today. Actually 13 CDs to talk about. That is the entire collection. In the ranking, I'm only going to include the 11 full-length albums, but at the same time, while I'm at it, I'm going to show all of the CDs by Enthroned, so we just get it all done in one video. So I'll really try not to talk in too much detail, otherwise we'll be here, like imagine if I spent 5 minutes for each one, we'll be here for an hour, and I don't want to do that, so I'll try my best to keep it succinct. Remember, ultimately it's easier to just go and listen to the albums, but these are just quick references to my ranking. So if you are familiar with the band and you disagree with my ranking, that's fine. Remember, it's my list, so you can show me your ranking if you're interested. So yeah, as I said, they've got 11 full-length albums and various EPs and live albums, so I'm just going to show you all 13 CDs that I have today. Just a bit of background, they've sort of changed lineup a lot over the years. So the original vocalist and bassist was Sabathan. He left in the early 2000s, I think around 2004, 2005, and then lead guitarist Nornegest, who did the sort of like low-pitched growls and backing vocals, he took over as lead vocalist after Sabathan left. So those two members were in the band together for a long time, but for a quick reference, when I say Sabathan era, I'm talking about when Sabathan was the lead vocalist, and when I say Nornegest era, that's when the current era when Nornegest is the lead vocalist. So you can look up the history of the band if you need more information. But anyway, 2.5 minutes in, I'm going to get started. So first of all, these are not included in the rankings. These are just one EP and one live album. So the first album I'm going to show, this is Enthroned with Regie Sathanas. So to show you that picture, and then the subtitle there is A Tribute to Cernunnos. So Cernunnos is this guy on the front, superimposed over the forest. He was the original drummer and committed suicide after the first album, sadly. So their first album was called Prophecies of Pagan Fire, and then he committed suicide shortly after that. So this was after the first two albums. They released this as a kind of tribute to him, and I'll just read the liner notes. It says, "This CD is our tribute to our war brother Cernunnos, who killed himself in April, year of our Lord 1997. The idea was not to release another CD, but to just do something different with old and brand new stuff from the blackened horde of Enthroned. Some of this stuff was written back in 1988 by Cernunnos and Sabathan for the pre-Enthroned band Morbid Death. The new material is simply a plus to show our new hymns and our evolution since the last album. Hail." Okay, yeah, so 7-track EP, and I'll just say, cutting a long story short, this is excellent. If you haven't heard this album and you like black metal, I would just confidently say buy it. In my book, it's just 10 out of 10. Brilliant stuff. This is like from the earlier era of Enthroned, and like I've mentioned before, they're sort of comparable to Marduk, except, you know, that sort of high-speed blasting, intense black metal, but at the same time, this band incorporates a bit more melody and a few elements of traditional heavy metal, so it's like a melodic heavy metal version of Marduk, if you like. And yeah, this EP is just outstanding. I'll show you the disc. Yeah, the artwork on this is amazing as well. But yeah, really, really good EP. Just show you they've got the lyrics and everything. And there's a little tribute to Cernunnos there. And picture of the band. So the lineup here was, so this is sort of the classic lineup. So Nornegest, Sabathan, Neberos, and Blackthorn. Yeah, so this lineup was together for a few albums actually. But yeah, just awesome stuff. So let's just talk about some of the tracks. Like By Dark Glorious Thoughts is one of my favorite Enthroned tracks of all time. Like, just so melodic and memorable. Good breakdown in the middle, and it's like very eerie and atmospheric. Also, Walpurgis Night, which that starts with like a pagan drum beat, and it's like very like with rain falling and the wind blowing and everything, and it makes you picture a pagan ritual out in the forest. Great guitar solos in that, great melodies, memorable lyrics, fantastic. Then you've got another track called Satan Never Sleeps. That's from the pre-Enthroned band Morbid Death, also very catchy. They include a cover of Sodom's The Conqueror, which is just awesome, like just high speed on steroids version of The Conqueror. And then they also do a re-recording of a track from their debut album, which is Deny the Holy Book of Lies, one of their favorite tracks. And this one, it's sort of like a sped up version, and what I like about it is when the drums kick in just before that, Sabathan goes, "Come on!" Yeah, and it just adds to that sort of atmosphere. It's great. So, awesome EP. If you haven't heard it, as I said, and you like black metal, just buy it. That's how confident I am that you'll like it. So that's Enthroned with Regie Sathanas. Okay, and then the other album I'm going to talk about outside the ranking, this is Enthroned with Black Goat Ritual. Just show you the disc here. Yep, so this is a live album which they released in 2003, and I would say if you're not familiar with Enthroned, this could be a good starting point actually, because it's an eclectic mix of all of their material from the first album up until 2003, 2004. So you see here, this is the lineup. So who have we got in the band? Sabathan and Nornages, of course, and also Glaurum and Nuraroth, I think, yeah. So this is taken from a concert which my friend Chris Lee from Brazil said they actually did in Brazil. I knew it was somewhere in South America. But yeah, just like sort of greatest hits live performance of the first several albums. And, you know, quite a lot of classic songs in this. So I'm not going to mention them now because I haven't talked about them yet. But really, really good. And also 2 original studio recordings on top of the live performance, which are Last Will and Eternal Misery. And they are both great tracks. Just show you the booklet here. And it's quite funny, you know, I wouldn't normally say to people start with a live album, because I often find that live albums don't really do the songs justice in terms of sound quality, but the sound quality on this is actually really good, so it's a good introduction to all of their albums. And Sabathan, as the lead vocalist at the time, he does some entertaining speeches to the audience in between songs, so it's very sort of theatrical and fun. But yeah, really good live album. And I think this is an official release, but it's not one I hear people talking about a lot. But yeah, it's a very good live album. So Enthroned with Black Goat Ritual. Okay. All right, so now getting into the 11 studio albums, and I'm 7 minutes in. So really, if you think I'm too succinct and concise, I'm sorry, it's just because I don't want to keep you here all day. But as I've said, go and listen to the albums and they will speak for themselves. Okay, so 11 albums, and I'm going from 11, my least favorite, to number 1, my most favorite. Interestingly, with rankings, I hear some people call them worst to first. I'm not doing that today because, in my opinion, all Enthroned albums are at the very least very good. So I think each and every Enthroned album has something worthwhile to check out. So I don't dislike any of these. All I'm saying is, obviously I like some albums more than others, and some have to come at the bottom. So by default, least favorite, but they are still good albums. So, all right, coming in at number 11 then, this is Enthroned with the clunky title Pentagrammaton. So I've talked about this in a collection update. Cool cover art. So this is from the Nornages era, so when Nornages had taken over as lead vocalist. There are some great moments on this album. Basically, it's, how would I describe this? It's original, atmospheric and powerful black metal. It's very proficient and fast playing, a lot of blasting and nice guitar ambience, excellent thunderous and precise drumming, and the sound quality is just great, and there's also some awesome impassioned howled vocals. So that's noteworthy that Nornages took over as lead vocals, and he used to only do the low-pitched growls as a backing vocalist, but as a lead vocalist he really shines as well, doing the black metal rasp, so that's awesome. Now, the reason why this is my least favorite Enthroned album, it's by no means bad, but it's just that sometimes there's too much blasting, in my opinion, and a lack of melody to make a lot of the songs memorable. And they do have, like, there's always great moments on Enthroned albums, so there's a lot of like standout moments where you say, oh wow, that's really interesting or very catchy, but not standout songs overall, I would say. But yeah, and this is when Nornages had taken over, the band took on a more sort of they had this kind of the listening sound is a religious kind of experience. You know, there's a lot of Gregorian chant kind of choral vocals and ritualistic kind of instrumentation. So it is really interesting, and there's a few moments, I'm not going to go into the details, but some of my favorite tracks on this are Rion Riorim and Ornament of Grace, Magnus Princeps Leopardi, and Behemiron. Yes, they have these rather difficult titles. But yeah, as I said, it's a very good album, and if I would just say if you're not really familiar with Enthroned, I wouldn't start with this one because it's not as memorable as some of the others, but nevertheless, always interesting, always groundbreaking. It's a good Enthroned album. So, Pentagrammaton. Am I pronouncing that? Pentagrammaton. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, so I'll just show you the disc with this. So you can't see that very well here, and the booklet. Yep, all of the lyrics and portraits of the band. That's a nice picture there. Yep, so this band never skimps on the packaging and artwork. Yeah, it's very much, presentation is important. Yeah, so like I said, really interesting album, but just not as memorable as some of the others, but nevertheless very interesting. So that's Enthroned with Pentagrammaton. Okay, coming up next then. Coming in at number 10 in my opinion, this is Enthroned with Obsidium. So Obsidium, this album, it's pretty much the same deal as Pentagrammaton, so all of those same elements there, you know, the ritualistic sounds, the ambience, the atmosphere. It's still a kind of religious experience. You've got these kind of choral vocals which make it sound really majestic and grandiose. In my opinion, how it differs from Pentagrammaton is it's just more memorable. So perhaps as the album which came out afterwards, they just improved with the songwriting and you know, the quality of songwriting in order to make the songs more memorable. But yeah, you could even say this is a sister album to Pentagrammaton, but a better version in my opinion. So yeah, definitely worth checking out as well. And just like Pentagrammaton, it's like there's not so many standout songs as such, but like just a lot of really memorable moments which are really interesting. So I think this band is very original. Cool layout of the lyrics as well. Just they really sound like no other band, especially in terms of the Nornages era. Like this new sound which has developed in the last few albums. Yep, so awesome packaging and artwork once again. And just portraits of the band members. The only thing is kind of hard to read the lyrics because they're in a spiral, but interesting layout. Yep, so like I said, sister album to Pentagrammaton, there are some fantastic moments, but why this comes towards the bottom to me is it's more sort of like it's got a background kind of ambience, not so many memorable songs, but at the same time, never boring, so definitely worth checking out. That's Enthroned with Obsidium. Okay, so 2 Nornages albums to start with. Now, so coming in at number 9, this is Xes Hareticum. So this is the first album I'm talking about today from the Sabbathan era. So when Sabbathan was the bassist and lead vocalist, this album came out in around 2004, I think 2003, 2004. And yeah, it's kind of that classic early Enthroned sound. And why this ranks at the bottom to me, it's just never clicked all that much as with earlier albums. So like, again, it's certainly not a bad album, but I just find that a lot of the songs on this aren't all that memorable. It's sort of like more a background album to me, and that's no disrespect to the band or the music, but like they just don't stand out as much as other albums. So having said that though, there's some brilliant songs on this, like Crimson Legions, the opening track. Also, by the way, the drumming on this album is just so explosive and super fast. It's just scorching, precise musicianship. Like everything is aggressive, fast, it's really good. Another great track is the second track, Dance of a Thousand Knives. And I love the lyrics in that song, like it just invokes so much atmosphere with screams of anguish arising in the land of Brahman, prepare the flesh for the something. But yeah, if you hear it coupled with the music, it's good. And there's some standout moments like where the lyrics coupled with the music sound excellent. So those first 2 tracks are really good. Another interesting track is the last one, 7 Plagues, 7 Wraths, which is, that incorporates some clean guitars and some choral vocals from the producer, the guy who produced this album. And it's got a kind of, it might sound strange, but a sort of Northern European sound, like it invokes, I don't know, images of like French, Belgian landscapes. To me anyway, that's how I hear it. But like, really good. Yeah, so like those 3 tracks are probably my favorite. And the others, they're by no means bad, but they just don't stand out as much. And they also have 3 bonus tracks. Yeah, Crucified Towards Hell, Satanic Metal Cult, and Under the Guillotine. Yeah, again, nothing bad about those, and Helgium Messiah as well. It's just like, I find that this album, I like the overall sound, but just a lot of tracks don't stand out to me. But yeah, my 3 favorites, Crimson Legions, Dance of a Thousand Knives, and 7 Plagues, 7 Wraths. So, artwork on this one is pretty cool as well. Just show you the booklet. Here we go. And yeah. Nice layout once again. Yeah, so like I said, it is a good album, just not one of my favorites. And if you're not familiar with this band, I wouldn't start with this album, at least not in my opinion, but it's definitely worth checking out because they all are. So, Enthroned with Xes Hareticum. Okay, coming in at number 8 then, Enthroned with Armoured Bestial Hell. So you know I've spoken about this recently in a thread video in response to Zero Ground Salem, Pat's video. Yeah, so this one came out, when was it? I think 2001. And like I said, this is an album I changed my opinion on. So at first I thought it was okay, and then I thought it was pretty bad, and over time I've grown to like it. Now, why would I say this album, I thought it was bad in the beginning? It definitely sounds, in comparison to other Enthroned albums, it sounds a bit shonky, a bit dodgy, like, I don't know, there's that lack of precision that they normally have. Like, it has more swagger and roughness to it. And I know they went to Germany to record this album, so maybe they were really drunk on beer all the time. Then again, they come from Belgium, which is one of the best beer drinking countries, so I don't know. But for whatever reason, this one just turned out a bit shoddy. But having said that, there are some really good moments on this album. There are just a few forgettable tracks in my opinion. Like, as I've mentioned, the title track, Armoured Bestial Hell, is not that interesting. And also, yeah, when Hell Freezes Over, it's okay. It ends with 2 instrumental tracks, Premature Satanic Cremation and Terminate Annihilation. So that sort of indicates to me that the band was running out of ideas or rushing if they just finished with 2 instrumentals in a row. But having said that, there are some great tracks on this album. So Wrapped in Fire is brilliant, especially with the breakdown in that song where he says, I can feel the hatred, that burning smell excite me so much. Classic Enthroned melody there, really good. Enslavement Revealed is another really good song, and like, again, some very memorable lyrics in that song, coupled with the melodies like I am Satan and Satan is your master. And Spells from the Underworld, a great riff in that, dun, 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 like, it's just really catchy. Spheres of Damnation is also great. Then track 7, The Face of Death, that starts off with this sort of like drumless guitar part, like really dark with these distorted evil vocals, and it's just like, yeah, very ritualistic again, so I love that track. So yeah, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 awesome tracks out of the 11 on this, which I think are really good. Anyway, so just show you the booklet here. And the artwork for this album was actually done by Rock from Sadistic Execution. And I know Enthroned are big fans of SADX, so that makes sense. And yeah, you see that it's very much like a Sadistic Execution album cover. And the disc is also pretty cool. Yeah, nice and colourful. So yeah, like I said, this was an album that I used to think was okay, then I thought was bad, but my opinions on it is evolved. For the 5 really good tracks, I think it's definitely worth checking out, but there are just albums again that I happen to like more than this. So that's Enthroned with Armoured Bestial Hell. Okay. Okay. So coming in at number 7 then, this is Enthroned with Cold Black Suns. Pointless slipcase there, but it does include the logo, which is good. Yeah, so this is one I've mentioned in collection updates before, and also on my innovative albums thread. This was an album which is, to me, it's interesting because it's the most recent one, by the way, and it's just got an ambient and experimental quality. So a lot of the time, there's parts of the songs which are drumless and they're just using clean guitars Again, a lot of the moments in the song sound religious and ritualistic. They've got those Gregorian chant vocals again, and just some ritualistic instruments, cymbals and gongs, and yeah, it's got a very particular ambience. And this one, I would say, it is a background music kind of album, but in an interesting way. Like the music is infiltrating as you're listening to it, and it really, drips into your subconscious, I find. Like, this one is a very interesting listening experience. So I would say that it's one of the most interesting black metal albums I've ever heard. And the reason why it only ranks as number 7 is obviously because there's an ambient quality to it, so it's not like there's standout tracks, but as I said, it's an overall very interesting listen. So yeah, if you're looking for some innovative or interesting black metal, definitely check this album out. They do have some blasting parts as well, of course, so like traditional Enthroned elements. This photo there. But yeah, overall it's much more of an ambient and experimental album, and certainly not in a bad way. I love this album, and like, in a way it sort of pains me to only rank it as number 7, but sorry, they've released so many good albums, there's just ones I happen to like more than this. So yeah, if you're looking for interesting, innovative, experimental, ambient black metal, definitely don't pass up on this, because it is brilliant. Enthroned with Cold Black Suns, and interestingly, this is their most recent album. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do next. So yeah. All right. So coming in at number 6, we have Enthroned with Sovereigns. Okay, so this is a Nornegest era album, and by the way, so was Cold Black Suns as the most original. And I didn't mention Armoured, Bestial, Hell was a Sabbathan era album, so that came out 2001. So yeah, this is a Nornegest era album. Came out in 2013, I think, and this is when the band had already, adjusted to that more sort of ritualistic, religious experience kind of sound. So why I like this one more than Cold Black Suns is just because it's more memorable. Like, it has more of a conventional songwriting structure, it's not as ambient, but again, some just really great moments, which are also featured on Pentagrammaton and Obsidium, just really honing their style with this. But I think this was like a really good result with this new lineup. What they did, absolutely fantastic. So like Pentagrammaton, Obsidium and Cold Black Suns, but it just happens to be more memorable, and some like amazing moments on this. I remember some of my favorite songs on this would be Antiloquium, Lamp of Invisible Lights, Of Shrines and Sovereigns, Baal al-Mut, and the last track, which I can't pronounce. Yeah. So, yep, there's the classic Enthroned icon and logo. And the booklet here, by the way, the cover art on this is really good. Lyrics, cool photo as well. Yeah. So like I said, this is just honing that style which the new lineup has done, and just achieving very memorable results. So this is Enthroned with Sovereigns. Great album. Okay, so now we're coming down to the top 5 albums. So these ones are ones I would say are absolutely essential. Like I said, I think all albums are worthwhile, but these are ones like I would say to people, you've got to hear no matter what. So coming in at number 5 then, I think it's number 5, yep, Enthroned with the Apocalypse Manifesto. And I have talked about this one in various threads as well. So this album has a special meaning to me because it was the first album I ever heard by them back in 1999. That's when this album came out. I heard it in a Metal Magazine compilation, the track Genocide Concerto for the Razors, and I remember just thinking, wow, this blows me away because it reminds me of Marduk, but it's blended with a traditional heavy metal sound. This is from the Sabbathan era of the band, so Sabbathan was the lead vocalist at the time, Nornegest still in the band, and yeah, I was just blown away. It was like, to me, this made me think, this is a sister band of Marduk, but it has an original twist. Like, absolutely great album. I still love it to this day. No bad tracks on this at all. Like I mentioned in a thread, the only thing that this album suffers from is a kind of thin production. Like, I think it was produced by Tommy Tegtron in Abyss Studio, so I think that's Peter Tegtron's brother. So I'm not saying it's Tommy's fault or whatever, but for whatever reason, the production just turns out a bit thin. Like, it does have a cool sound, and I also own this one on vinyl. then you can crank up the bass a bit. But yeah, on the CD version, you don't hear the bass very well, and the drum sound is just a little bit flat. But like overall, the songs are absolutely brilliant, and the songs still do the album justice. So just show you the disc. My cover's broken because I've had this for over 20 years. Yep, so there you have, Sabbathan, Nornegest, all of the lyrics. And by the way, the lyrics in this album, written by Sabbathan, I think Sabbathan and Nornegest wrote them, are just absolutely fantastic. So epic, monumental, they conjure these really apocalyptic visions in your mind when you listen to this, so it's like heavy stuff. So this is also, Neberos was the lead guitarist, and Blackthorn. I have some friends in Belgium who told me, apparently this drummer, he drums like a maniac, like Frederick Anderson from Marduk, but apparently they said he didn't like metal at all. He liked like pop music and R&B. Like, it's funny considering what he looks like and the way he plays. I'm not sure if that's true, maybe they were just joking, but yeah, he was on this album, and Armoured, Bestial, Horde does a great job. He also wrote the lyrics for Face of Death, so either he's a really good actor or my friends were just joking with me. But yeah, brilliant album. Like I said, no bad tracks. Some of my favorites though, the opening track, the Apocalypse Manifesto, some great melodic riffs, brilliant melodic guitar solo in that song, and some funny lyrics. Death Faceless Chaos is just, it's so powerful, that song, and it's got that kind of Marduk atmosphere, and blistering and melodic. It's really good. Also featuring some backing, like low-pitched growl backing vocals from Nornegest and Peter Tugtren from Hypocrisy, the owner of Abyss Studios. Now, Retribution of the Holy Trinity is my favorite Enthroned track of all time. It is absolutely brilliant. Just a medley of awesome, heavy, catchy, sinister sounding riffs. It keeps you interested. It jumps from one riff to another riff, and but so memorable, and great vocals. It sounds really sinister and evil. If there's one track I would recommend you to check out by Enthroned, start with Retribution of the Holy Trinity from this album, crank it up to the max, and then you'll realize why this band is awesome. Like that song gets me going when I listen to that song. Also, then there's Genocide Concerto for the Razors, the first one I ever heard. So some blistering manic guitar solos in that song, and great memorable vocals and lyrics as well. It's just fantastic. And then what are the last three tracks we've got? Volkermord der Antigott, Alastor Rex Perpetuus Dolores. Both of those songs feature some really great riffs, and again some memorable vocals and lyrics. And then the last track is the Scourge of God, which starts off quite slow and atmospheric, and I think sort of as a sister band to Marduk. Marduk wrote the songs about Dracula or Vlad Tepes. This song is about Attila the Hun. So I think they're sort of carrying on that tradition. But just some great fast manic riffs in that song as well, so many different tempos and everything. But it's absolutely brilliant. And then it finishes with a hidden track. Now they say, including in the track listing here, they have post-mortem penetrations, but that is not included in this version for some reason. But I do have it on another CD. So yeah, brilliant album, as you can probably guess. If you want to start with a track, start with Retribution of the Holy Trinity. It's just awesome. The only thing that this album suffers from is a kind of thin production, but it is still brilliant and one of my favorite Enthroned albums. So Enthroned with the Apocalypse Manifesto. Okay. All right, coming in at number 4 then, Enthroned with Tetra Karcist. So, some people might think this is an interesting choice. This was the very first album with Nornegest taking over as lead vocalist. Now, why I rank it higher than Apocalypse Manifesto is the fact that the production is much better. It's big, epic production. It sounds like it was recorded in a massive dome cathedral or something. And again, this is when the band with Nornegest as lead vocalist was taking on a more sort of religious significance with the music and the lyrics and everything. But just huge epic atmosphere, great soaring melodies and guitar solos, everything, and great vocal performance from Nornegest. It retains that classic Enthroned sound, so they're not straying from the earlier material, and you realize how much of an influence Nornegest is in the songwriting, with his guitar style and everything. But this album, I would say, it's pretty much 10 out of 10. It's so good. The opening track, Ingressus Regnum Spiritus, it starts with this rallying war speech and soaring melody, which is just amazing. Then the opening track, Pray, is a blast fest, and it's just that's the call to battle. It's an absolute slaughter, brilliant song. Sorry guys, slight interruption, my phone filled with memory, so I had to just pause for a second. So yeah, after Pray, then it's funny, after that my favorite tracks are the even numbered tracks. So track 4, Deviant Nerve and Jealous. That has just got this brilliant clean guitar intro, which is so haunting and atmospheric. It is brilliant. Also track 6, Through the Cortex, which again, that starts with another rallying war speech, and then there's just this manic scream, and then the blast beat drumming comes in. It's just, it gets me going. It's awesome. Then also the 7 Ensigns of Creation is, oh by the way, Through the Cortex, that's got a riff which is reminiscent of Retribution of the Holy Trinity, so that wins big points in my book. Then the 7 Ensigns of Creation, just this great strutting, stomping, mid-paced riff with vocals which just match it, make it even stronger. It's really good. Track 8, Nox, is great. Then track 9, Vermin, it's a reprise of the opening track, that haunting melody, the call to battle, sort of concluding the ritual. And then it finishes with Antares, and there's also 2 bonus tracks on this. So Psalm 1, Pantheon of Oblivion, and Psalm 2, I Reign Over You. But just a brilliant album. There are no bad songs on this. I've just named my favorites, but yeah, really, really good album, and a great starting point for Nornegest as lead vocalist. So there's the disc, and yep, so there's Nornegest there, and the rest of the guys, portrait of the band. Yeah, and like I said, this was when I think the philosophy of the band was becoming a bit more serious, but what a great album to start with from Nornegest as lead vocalist, Enthroned with Tetra Karcist. You know, on that note, you know, I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't bother to check out the new stuff with Nornegest. Honestly, you're missing out, because it is really good, and this is, as you can see, I think this is one of the best. So, Enthroned, Tetra Karcist. Okay, now we're coming up to the top 3, so this is where it gets controversial, because I'm sure everyone has their opinions on what's the best Enthroned album. This one might surprise people. So coming in at number 3, in my opinion, Enthroned with Prophecies of Pagan Fire. So I know what some people are thinking, what? This is the best. Fine, that's your opinion. It is a really good album. This is the first full-length album from Enthroned. So from the early days, this was the only album which didn't feature Nornegest in the band. So it was Sabbathan, Sononos, and I can't remember. So they were actually a 3-piece. But yeah, a lot of people consider this the best, because, you know, often debut albums are considered the most legendary. It is very good, I have to admit, but there's just ones I like better again. So sorry if you disagree. But yeah, there's no denying that this is a brilliant album. Like, this album came out in 1995, the first Enthroned album, and it's a lot more, I wouldn't say symphonic, but they use a lot of keyboards in this. And by the way, that's the thing, with Enthroned, they do use keyboards sometimes in their songs, if it adds significance to the song, but they don't use them all the time. So it's like, you know how some bands feel they have to use keyboards all the time, or others feel that they have to not use them at all? Enthroned uses them occasionally when it adds atmosphere or lifts a melody, something like that. But there's no denying that this album, they use keyboards a lot more than any other album, and they do sound really good. Yeah, not really much a symphonic sound, but it's just, it just adds a lot of atmosphere to it, and it is really good. So if you like a lot of keyboard-based black metal, or black metal featuring a lot of keyboards, this is an Enthroned album for you. Really good, and it just lifts the atmosphere. Some really great moments on this song, on this album. Now, there's just one thing, because the band was quite young at the time and just gaining experience, my only criticism of this album is in some parts of some songs are a bit too repetitive, like the opening track after Prophecies of Pagan Fire, which is the intro, the opening track, Deny the Holy Book of Lies. It's a really good song, but just that opening instrumental intro, they could have slashed that in half easily. It's very, very repetitive, but once the song gets going, it's awesome. Like, especially, you know, like, that melody with the breakdown where they say, Ave Satan, Ave, Ave, Ave. I know it's not very convincing in words, but when you hear it with the music, it sounds absolutely brilliant. So Deny the Holy Book of Lies is such a great song. Then the next track, Under the Holocaust. By the way, that's not a reference to World War II. This is not a political or fascist band. Just getting that straight off my chest. But yeah, that song is absolutely amazing. Like, they've got some really atmospheric keyboards, like, which really, really lift the atmosphere so much. And then this melody in the middle, which is just so easy to sing along to, and it's got some atmosphere with the keyboards in the background, like those lines, I raise my inverted cross to the night side eclipse. So I guess they were influenced by Emperor, who wasn't in those days. And yeah, I think that's showing a lot on this album because they use the keyboards a lot. Scared by Dark Winds has some amazing melodies as well, like just really haunting and evil sounding, fantastic. Tales from a Blackened Horde, again soaring with a lot of keyboards. At the Dawn of Funeral Winter is a good song. Yeah, all these songs are great. So I have no criticisms of this album, no bad songs. The last ones are Rites of the Northern Full Moon, Skeldenland, as the sound of the Millennium Black Bells, and As the Wolves Howl Again. So again, like a reference to Emperor. But yeah, different album from Enthroned as their first. All right, so just show you the booklet here. This one is a reissue actually. So I've got a bonus disc which has got some live tracks and also that missing track from the Apocalypse Manifesto, Postmortem Penetrations. Awesome artwork for this one. And as a re-release, this is showing pictures of various lineups of the band over the years. And yeah, they've actually got a portrait of each and every member who had been in the band up to the point of the re-release. But yeah, awesome collector's edition of this. This is a fantastic album, so don't get me wrong. It's not my favorite, but I just think they had honed their craft a bit better later than this. But yeah, great atmospheric black metal with a lot of keyboards. That's Enthroned with Prophecies of Pagan Fire. At number 3, okay, so coming into the last two, drum roll. Okay, so coming in at number 2, Carnage in Worlds Beyond, which is the album which came out in 2003. This one came out after Armoured, Bestial, Hell, and wow, was it an improvement. So, like I said, Apocalypse Manifesto had been great, then Armoured, Bestial, Hell came out, it was a disappointment. This one, they returns to form, and it's quite funny. By the way, I did so much deliberation and listening, like for hours, and I changed my ranking with this. I always thought that this would rank near the top because it is, obviously I really like it, but I thought it would be in the top 5 somewhere, but I never thought it would come in at number 2, but it actually did. It is a brilliant album. So what's good about this album, it's great sound quality. Just, they were so experienced by this point in writing really great, memorable riffs and melodies. Sabathan was the lead vocalist for this album, and just so proficient. Like the songwriting, the instrumentation, the atmospheres, and what I love about this album is that the songs are so memorable. Just about every song is memorable. You can sing along to, you remember the structure. See, this is the difference between this album and albums at the bottom. But like Boundless Demonication is a great opening track with that before the blasting starts, and the riff and melody and the drumming is brilliant. Great vocals from Sabathan. Infernal Flesh Massacre has got some great riffs and melodies and some great memorable lines like kill for pleasure, burning human leather. It just sticks in your head, and just classic Enthroned melodies. Track 3, Spawn from the Abyss, starts with a spoken word intro from Nornages, and it's very sort of dark and atmospheric. That's an epic slow song, but really brilliant. Now, Bloodline is probably my favorite song on the album. Just absolutely awesome, brilliant, just great fast melody in that song which sticks in your head. You're singing along to those riffs, and great drumming, the breakdown, and coupled with the vocals and everything, it is really so good. So Bloodline is a brilliant song, check it out. And again, for some reason it invokes this Northern European kind of French atmosphere to me. See what you think, but brilliant song. Then Jehovah Desecration is good. That's sort of like a aggressive blast fest, which is really good. Another one of my favorite tracks is Diabolic Force. That was a song written with the original drummer Cernanos, so from the old days. But again, the vocals, the lyrics, the riffs, they just stick in your head. You're singing along to that song like Diabolic Force. So yeah, they're probably my 2 favorite songs on the album, Bloodline and Diabolic Force. Absolutely awesome, 10 out of 10. Then Land of Demonic Fears is kind of like a spoken word interlude from Nornagest. Just as a break from all the chaos the controlled chaos on the album. Then Radiance of Mordacity is good. The last track, Graced by Evil Blood, again continuing that tradition of Marduk did a song about Dracula, and then they did one about Attila the Hun. This one's about Louis XIV, the tyrant, which is a good song. And which is again sort of a slower, more atmospheric track. It includes some keyboards and some clean vocals from the producer. and I can't remember who is the producer. Doesn't matter. But yeah, and then they also include, after the outro, which is Carnage and Worlds Beyond, they include another new song, which is this Septentrional Shrine, which is good. And then they include a cover of The Horny and the Horned by Impaled Nazarene from the Ugra Karma album. Really good cover, by the way. And then also Genocide 2002, which is a re-recording of Genocide Concerto for the Razors from the Apocalypse Manifesto. So, whew, that's a mouthful. But this is 50 minutes of music. It's awesome. I cannot get sick of this album. And I bought it when it first came out. It's nearly 20 years later. I still love it. Great artwork and layout with this as well. So all of the lyrics are readable. A portrait of each band member. Yeah, and it's funny, the description, they talk about their role in the band, you know, like, let's see, like Sabathan, 4 strings Devastation and lead voxum. But for Alsfid, the drummer, it says blasphemic machine gun. So I like that theatrical description. But yeah, I know a lot of people wouldn't consider this a classic Enthroned album, but objectively, musically, it is brilliant, so I highly recommend it. Enthroned with Carnage in Worlds Beyond, coming in at number 2. Alright, so that only leaves, oh, and I've just dropped the albums. Not so good. Okay, so that only leaves one album to go. This is my absolute favorite album. Like I said, most people would say Prophecies of Pagan Fire, but to me, this is hands down the best. Coming in at number 1, Enthroned with Towards the Skullthrone of Satan. So this was the album, this was the second full length after Prophecies of Pagan Fire, and why it's better in my opinion is they had just improved as songwriters, like the songs weren't as repetitive, they had trimmed everything down a bit, and also it wasn't as keyboard oriented, and I'm not against keyboards, but there was just like a lot of great melodic guitar work in this, which was really memorable. Again, taking a lot of influence from 80s heavy metal and thrash metal and so on. But yeah, it's just like, this was one of the first albums I ever bought after the Apocalypse Manifesto. It has a lot of nostalgic value to me, but literally I know every riff, every drum beat on this song. And when I was doing the album ranking, listening to determine what was the best, I think I listened to this one like 4 times in a couple of days. I still love it. Features a lot of the band's classic songs, like The Ultimate Horde Fights, great melodies and riffs in that song, the breakdown at the end, you know, it's the ultimate fight of the hordes. Harsh Shaitan is a brilliant track again, and that's got that kind of memorable chorus as well. On the Skullthrone, the Goat Lord vomits his evil, benediction of lust forever, in his name and soul we trust. Just great lyrical play in these songs, which I really like. Then track 4, Evil Church, that's one of their most famous ones. That has a very sort of a traditional heavy metal sound, like with the clean guitars and then the melodies and everything and the sort of gallop and stomp to the music, but also some blasting parts and just like fast and slow, mixed tempos, but everything is memorable. Track 5, The Antichrist Summons the Black Flame, that has got the most eerie, haunting riff to start off the song. It is just, that automatically makes the song awesome, and then it just continues in that very aggressive vein. Now, probably my favorite track on the album is Dusk of Forgotten Darkness. Again, just like haunting, soaring melodies, and when they include the keyboards, like just occasionally in that song, it just lifts the atmosphere so much. So again, a brilliant song, Dusk of Forgotten Darkness. Another one of my favorites is, I know the title sounds funny, but When Horny Flames Begin to Rise. Like again, it features some haunting acoustic atmospheric guitars. And then again, it's sort of an epic song, like with a slower tempo, but so heavy. And then also Hertogen Wald, I'm assuming meaning Hertogen Forest, Wald being the German word for forest. But again, just so epic. They include some choral vocals and some keyboards in that song. And that also features a spoken word section by Kronos from Venom. And I think I heard that actually Kronos has some family relation to Nornegest. I think he partly Belgian descent, that's what I heard anyway. But yeah, great vocals from Kronos in that song as well. And yeah, it's just very haunting, so really good. So the only 2 tracks on this album which I find don't stand out to me very much are The Forest of Nathrath and Thrown to Purgatory. They're by no means bad songs, but they just don't really stick out like the others. But like 11 tracks on this album, 9 of them really stand out. Oh, 7, because the intro, the first and last tracks are intro and outro. But yeah, pretty much every track is a standout on this. Nice artwork on this as well, very atmospheric. And yeah, lyrics and portraits of the band. Yeah, great lyrics in this album, by the way. So who was the... Yeah, the lineup was pretty much the same. Nornages, Sabathan, Neberos, and Cernanos, it says, see you in the next life. So he had already committed suicide by this. So the drumming was done by a guy called Darkardern, I think. And the drumming is very competent on this album. Really, really good. Like, memorable blast beats and everything. Fantastic. So, yeah, in my opinion, this has the most nostalgic value for me, but qualitatively, it is really the best in my opinion. So, definitely check it out. If you ask what I recommend, you know from the ranking, but make sure you definitely check this one out. Enthroned with Towards the Skullthrone of Satan, coming in at number 1. Alright, and that brings me to the end of this ranking. So I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. I think it's been about half an hour. So like I said, I didn't want to describe this in too much detail. Maybe you think I have, but I couldn't speak about each album for 5 minutes, or we'd be here for about an hour. So hopefully you appreciate it. It was a bit shorter. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you think of my ranking, what you think of these albums, of the ones you've heard. Tell me your ranking if you disagree. I'm interested to hear. But like I've said, I just feel that this band, they are well known in the underground scene, but I always hear so many people saying I haven't heard Enthroned, and in my opinion, definitely check them out. They're one of my favorite black metal bands, and I feel that they don't get enough credit, but once you discover their music, you know, you strike gold. It's opening up an entire new world, which is brilliant. So, Enthroned, one of my favorite black metal bands of all time. Definitely check them out. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going to go on much longer, but thanks very much for watching, if you managed to survive this long. And yeah, I hope you continue to watch. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Please consider subscribing if you haven't, if you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back again soon. So in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.